Wrestling Live. I'm here with another amazing, awesome coach in the state of Florida. He's actually now the head coach for Team Florida, with the assistant coach down at Tampa Jesuit with Coach Basil and family. He was a wrestler himself, came up through the high school ranks, and also wrestled in college. Coach David Mason, sure, if you know, you know. What's up, Coach?
What's going on, my man? Long time no see.
Yeah, man, what a great time we had out there at Fargo. I really appreciate the love you showed me and allowing me to be part of that, man. It really, I got to say, you and your staff and everybody out there really made me feel welcome. So I appreciate that.
Man, it was a great trip. I felt like, at least it's an experience, isn't it?
Oh man, it's an experience just to be there and do what we were doing, and then to have a kid there that's your own kid watching them. You've got
That's
the
pretty
different
crazy.
emotions that happen there as well. But man, I tell you, I had thoughts in my mind of what Fargo was like before going there, or you hear the positives and negatives about being part of Team Florida and all that other stuff, and then you go there and you experience the Fargo, and it was just, I mean, it's insane. 7,200 kids, 28 mats, the raised floor right there in front of everybody. I mean, it was insane. College coaches everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I just think everything about it's pretty cool. Like, even from the craziness to the weigh-ins, like, it's like a complete madhouse. I think he showed a video of that. But every year, watching those kids line up in that little tiny hallway, and then them letting them in a little at a time, and how they herd and then do all out sprints to the scale,
Oh,
like you
insane.
said,
I've got
28 minutes,
yeah.
crazy.
I went up there with my camera and I was trying to lean against, because there had to be 1,000 kids up there. It was,
Yeah, man, you had the whole crowd going.
yes.
We were wrestling. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And I looked up and I saw you, and you had them like an orchestrate.
Cheering. And then
It was
cool. It was like, ready, set, go. And then they just haul ass down that hallway, but they wouldn't let me around. So I had to come in the other side because they block it off. They don't let you in. But it was pretty cool, man. What a cool experience just being there.
Yeah.
And man, 8 days is a lot. I mean, for you coaches, I got to imagine, because, the first day there's kids that they're gone, they're out, and then they don't wrestle again the whole week. And so, but they're in the rooms, they're getting restless. I'm sure they're getting anxious. They're not allowed on the floor with their friends anymore. They got to be up in the stands. And you guys, man, you guys did a really good job of keeping everybody corralled. You had checkpoints. You had moments I could see on the chats where it was like, all right, everyone needs to check in at these times just to make sure everybody's still alive and healthy and still in Fargo. Man, I thought you guys did a great job. And then fast forward to wrestling. I mean, first of all, you did an amazing job. The feedback for you and your crew and everybody was unbelievable. But I mean, did you imagine coming back with what was it, 30 I think it was 19 physical All-Americans, but 11 double All-Americans. So I think it was 30 little stop signs, big stop signs, whatever they call them, all together. That's got to be one of the best years we've put out there.
Yeah. Don't forget 5 champs.
5 champs.
Right. Yep. And Lincoln was the OW, right?
Yes.
So any of those little awards are obviously good, but going back to kind of what you were talking about with the kids and just the enormity of the tournament, I felt like we did a really good job with the staff, for sure. They were very cohesive and worked together, which makes it, way easier to communicate and to make sure that, like you said, some kids are out after 2 rounds. Some kids have needs involving wrestling, multiple days in a row. You got all these different things going on. There's no way you can do it all yourself. We had practices in between. We got cadets, we got juniors. Like, you really need a lot of seasoned guys. And then, you need a lot of workhorses to get all that crap done, and people that are pretty selfless, for 8 days plus travel, plus all the other nonsense that comes with doing all this stuff. It's what makes it awesome. makes it rewarding when you do well too, that you put a lot of energy and effort into recruiting the right people, and then they went above and beyond what you even expected them to do, on top of, having the kids kind of have a great attitude and do the same thing, so
Yeah.
I don't think it's real surprising. I mean, I didn't necessarily sit down before and go, hey, this is how many All-Americans we're going to have, but I know what we're capable of doing. I also know what we left at home. Like, there's so many good wrestlers that are still eligible to wrestle that are in the state of Florida, or that are competing for another state, or that move, type of thing. And there's rules that they can play into Florida's advantage if they really wanted to. It's where their parents, claim their taxes at. So a lot of times we're giving releases to people. We got a lot of good wrestling, is my point. And even just Jesuit guys that were seniors that had college obligations and different things. There's a lot of reasons why you can't go, but if we really truly put all of our best guys there, I think people would be shocked at how good we really are.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't see the Riveras at Lake Highland Prep. They weren't there. We didn't see the Crooks over where your place at. We didn't see some of the studs down in South Florida. We didn't see a lot of those guys can most definitely compete, right?
Absolutely. And they have at certain times. It's not a dig at any of these people. Like, many of them had valid reasons, and if it's a lot of times, it has to do with the way the program works. Do they do freestyle and Greco, or the amount of money that it ends up costing, which is always something that, as the national teams director, part of what you're thinking and planning is to try to make it as cheap as possible to do the experience, knowing that nobody's gonna go to this tournament and be like, man, I spent too much money. Like, they're never like, you're gonna get your money's worth no matter what you do. Like, from the interaction with the coaches, like, you get all, like we talked about in the other video, you got immediate access to the best minds in the state. And I've been around all of these guys for a long time. If you go up and ask them something, they're not going to turn you away. I've never seen them turn anybody away. They'll stand there and talk to the kid for a half hour. Or getting coaching immediately after matches, I think, is something that a lot of kids aren't used to,
For sure. And it wasn't anything like, I mean, I love the Rivera boys. I love the Crooks. I love a lot of kids but a lot of them already pre-committed. They've already got their college things going out. They've got commitments. It just doesn't make sense for them to make that trip. But for most of our other kids in our state, they can make the trip, and they should make the trip. And the experience that was there was unbelievable. My son is one of them. He's not a highly decorated wrestler. He's not up in the elite echelons. He's getting better. And for him to go there and get 2 wins was something that'll change his confidence. I talked to kids that got 1 win, that they're going to come back and be like, wow. Even you get nothing, just the experience of looking around there and being in that room, you'll come back and you'll go into these little high school tournaments and you'll be like, wow, this little gym's nothing, man. The nerves are nothing to be
Absolutely.
here. We saw college coaches. There's a lot of kids that they went there. They didn't have anybody looking at them, and they left with college offers, or they had pre-committed to a lower, smaller college, and now a bigger one is looking at them saying, hey, let's go. So I think being a part of it was, I would make Daniel do it again for sure if I had to rewind it.
No doubt. The access, again, you have, a lot of times the kids are either meet these coaches or other higher level guys if they go to a camp or something like that. This is a place where you have a lot of them all in one area, and they're right there. You can walk up to them and introduce them. Again, it's one of those things where I've never seen any of them turn a kid away for the most part.
One thing I really like too is, you have the women's team Florida and you have the men's team Florida, but you didn't see a lot of like separation. Well, that's you guys, and there was a lot of cohesive. The girls were in the boys' corners, the boys were in the girls' corners. You saw girls coaches jumping into boys' corners. You saw boys coaches jumping into girls' corners. it seemed like everybody was there for one purpose. There wasn't a lot of selfishness. That was awesome to watch. I'm sure you noticed that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. As the person that ultimately sees every name, and goes through the process of getting each kid, you know, in the tournament, as well as all the coaches and what it takes to get all of those things together. At the end of it, when you have all of what you just said, basically everybody cheering for Team Florida and getting rid of all their, other ties and things, then you have a much better experience. But most of the time that comes down to the mood of the adults and how they're interacting with each other and what they do. Like, you can see the selflessness again. Like, it's hard to explain, but there's so much stuff that goes on at these tournaments, and it's being done for kids that are not your kids. Like, there's only a couple of athletes from each coach's team, and even if you have 10, you're still running the reins from top to bottom with all the other athletes too. There's still plenty of
Yeah, you would talk to these kids and they'd be like, wow, I've never had a chance to be around Verona or Duck or BB or Michael Bush or, this coach or that coach, the Abdens or you, or, there was a bunch of coaches there. I can't go through every single name, but you would hear them come back and Sean Sheldon, wow, the things I learned talking to that guy, things I learned talking to that guy. Even the guy, the little Fretwell had, the coach from Hilton had in there, that he was opening himself up to Florida kids and they were getting to talk to him and stuff. And he's a great mind. It was amazing how everything kind of flowed together, and you would hear that, like, Duck told us that everybody does the same thing this way, and BB said this, and Michael this, and Mason said this, and Abden told us this, and this coach told us that, and it was really cool. How many times do you get to do that during your season, or when you're just at home in one little location in Florida?
No, absolutely. It's an experience, like it certainly is. There's all that stuff that you just said and described, fact, true. It tends to be in the wrestling community. I think it's unique, like you'll see at the youth tournaments a lot, kids wrestle, one kid wins, the other kid's crying, he goes over, the dad ends up encouraging them, telling them which move to work on, like they end up 20 minutes later in the corner. Like, I know I did that a lot as a kid. Like, it's a pretty cool community, and I think Fargo really, as a whole, because of how big the tournament is and how much effort and importance that's put into it as a whole, I think it really gets people again excited about wrestling. No matter what their expectation was, they definitely get to meet a bunch of people and make relationships or start relationships with different minds. Like, I remember all the coaches that were on our trips. A lot of these guys are still involved in the sport. They're people that I talk to every time I go to tournaments. It's people that we BS with, and it's the people that make the circle go round. It's just now we got the new wave of people, if you may, and these guys have been absolutely awesome, no doubt about it.
And at the youth level, even I've talked to some kids so far on the show, and there's a lot of kids that maybe they wrestled this person, but that's the only time they've ever seen that person. They had a wrestling match or one loss, and that was it. They moved on to different parts of the bracket. Well, then they all came together on Team Florida, and now they're best of friends. They found a new drill partner. They're talking every day now. They're traveling to each other's clubs or schools to try to work with each other, and it's friendships that were made were incredible. I know that. So something I noticed going out there is you see. It seems like team wrestling is so important to grow your state. As I was out there, and I noticed some of the big schools, some of the big states were really bringing. I mean, we had like 75 boys and 35 girls, or 82 boys and 34 girls, right? Which you would look and say, wow, that's a good showing. And then you turn around and there's teams that are having. My dog's underneath here. He must be having a dream. He's going. And you turn around and you're looking and they got 80 girls and 80 boys, 120 boys, 60 girls. Obviously we have room to grow on the girls' side, like a lot of room to grow, because right now there's 35, we can definitely bring more. And then on the boys' side, there's definitely, we have studs out there that we talked about that we can get in there. What is something, in your opinion, first of all, why would you tell all these boys and girls it's important to be part of something like this? And then what can we do now that you're fully engulfed in this to try to encourage more participation?
Well, I mean, if you just listen to however many minutes we just talked about this tournament, right? Like, ask most kids, have they experienced that in their wrestling career? You know, have they experienced some of the things that we talked about? Have they had interaction with these coaches that we spoke about? You know, different things like that. I think, you know, I don't make anything off of the tournament. Like, besides putting together the trip and stuff like that, there's no value to it besides the overall value to wrestling that I know it has, right? You make memories, you make relationships. You know, the people that run Team PA, I used to coach there. I did like probably 4 summers, I think, they're doing the dual teams with them and doing Fargo. And a lot of the same people are involved, but they won cadet freestyle. I want to say they took second in junior freestyle, which are the, you know, the ones you want to win if you're competitive, but they brought, you know, 200 kids, right? And it's they're leaving tons of hammers at home, right? Sometimes, you know, we're winning dual titles with the 3rd best kid in the state, you know, at every single weight, not even the 1st or 2nd. So there's depth levels out there. We could definitely bring more people. Like, I feel like Florida is going to make a huge jump in the women's wrestling in the next few years. I think that minus the numbers, like, California has a huge amount of girls that compete at it, right? They just give you so many more people, like they're half of the tournament. But Florida, if it ends up doing what I think it's doing, they could compete for titles every single year, and they could put together teams that could win dual titles. I know that.
I mean, fifth with 30 girls, and the California won it with, I don't know, 85 girls or something they had somewhere around there.
Tons.
And obviously they're not 85 bums. California does the right thing. They build their program right. They fundraise to get the girl. They do everything you're supposed to do, right? So good for California. Now we're there, right? And we're learning and jumping in, and definitely.
Yeah. So I talk to a lot of those people as just a natural interest, right? And trying to always figure out what the best manner of doing things. I know that a lot of the states, they charge way more than we did, right? Way more, up to $1,000, $1,500 more. I don't know how, you know, you can get your people to buy into those things at that price, unless you are doing some personal money raising on your own. I'm open to hear any ideas. I know that's the general idea of bringing other minds involved. I'm not sitting behind the computer myself and making the only decisions, right? I'm trying to use the best people around us to come up with better ideas and hopefully give the best product. Like we talked about, that time frame that you're gone, right? When you look at the whole trip and how it improves your wrestling and your overall viewpoint of wrestling, does it give value, right? Is it a good value to the person paying for it, and are they wanting to come back? That's kind of how I judge if, you know, are we improving? Are we staying still? Is it something that is able to be grown some more? And, you know, are we willing to do it? I think both of those are yes. So
yeah, and I was one of the people before I experienced it, was like, man, that seems like a lot of money for a kid, man. That seems like, how are they charging that much? Man, they must be taking, I was that person. I was like, holy shit, it seems like it's ridiculous, right? And then fast forward, I was involved in it with you, right? And I got to see the number breakdown. Not only that, I had to purchase my own plane ticket. I had to purchase my
Correct.
own, I had to pay my own way to get there. I had to pay everything that a athlete would have paid. Other than you got me the passes and you got me the gear and you got me all that, which I appreciate. So I did get some cool stuff, plus the opportunity to be there. So that was great. But after having to break it down and do that,
Mhm.
I was like, holy shit, it cost me probably more than it cost per
For
kid
sure.
up there. I know
Yeah.
that.
We're not, the follow-up organization certainly isn't making money on it. It's an endeavor that when you look at what goes on, right? So we have a select number of coaches that go and stay with the team. And right, as our numbers get bigger, then the number of coaches that we take gets bigger, right? That's the idea that we offer so that everybody can be touched in the way that we talked about earlier, right? But the numbers, and especially after the COVID deal and with all the way that the flights and stuff were, the organization itself, FAWA, I'm gonna give a comfortable number of somewhere in between $40,000 and $50,000 was contributed to the kids, not made, contributed, right? Spread out over all these different things. And we use the stipend based program to try to promote getting kids to the tournaments and wanting to earn money to an expensive trip, which I think worked to a certain extent. But next year it's going to be in the same location, right? So if we can
No.
put together a bigger and better product, then I'm all for it, for sure.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of ideas. And look, I was naive too. I was one that was, like bitching, right? Oh my God, why would you pay so much, right? And then I experienced it, and thank God I did, because it changed my whole perspective, and I had a great time, and I appreciate it. And it changed my son's confidence, and it was incredible to be there. But
It's expensive.
it's
It's expensive. Let's call it what it is,
it's
right?
expensive.
Even if
And
you're
then, so I was curious like you. So guys like Jason Bryant, who obviously, if you don't know who he is, then you live under a rock, right? He's like Mr. Wrestling, right? And I sat and asked him, like, hey, on average, what does each state charge? On average, what do they do on average that? And yeah, we were at the low end of the spectrum when he started naming the different states and the charge per athlete. Which surprised me. I was like, wow, that's interesting to know. But yeah, I think
you got to remember also that the price that you're thinking about, or that only half of our athletes took, is full price, right? Everything else was below that price. What California said, or what these other states said their total price was, that's what they charged everybody, right? Like across the board, good, bad, or indifferent, right? So the number that we had as the max price for the tournament, that was a certain number of athletes, but then there were 50 something athletes that received some type of stipend, right?
yeah,
And up to half off, basically,
yeah, and I
at the
think
end
there's
of
a
the
lot
day.
of, I'm glad that we're doing this, because I think the state needs to hear the process, right, and understand it, because there's not like a minion behind the desk taking the money and throwing himself
Um,
at the party.
no,
But
I was surprised at how much information was not out there, I guess, and how much disinformation there was when we started doing the process. So anybody that's an All-American, right, they're going to qualify for the highest level of stipend, and they get to register first, right? So basically, what did we have? 30 All-Americans roughly. There's a few of those that are not going to be back, that were seniors and that won't qualify. So, roughly 20 people, maybe 15 of those are eligible to immediately claim a stipend from the RIP next year.
and that's perfect. And then you have the kids that you have a certain allotted number that qualify, and then you have an allotted number of extras where you can plug in, and we can bring more Florida kids. And it was all interesting to learn for me. I think that I've been thinking, I know you and I have talked, is and I know we'd have to get involved with Crum and Mako and all that stuff, but I know when I was working with foundations, like, I know, listen, I'm not gonna compare Team Florida to Make-A-Wish, guys out there. Make-A-Wish is a bigger deal than Team Florida. I'm just using the concept, right? Their concept when they go into a foundation is a wish equals X amount of dollars. How many wishes can we fundraise tonight, right? So if each wish is $7,000 and we get $70,000, we just got 10 wishes, right? So that's kind of how they look at it, right? So if each kid costs $1,550 and we have some sort of foundation or some sort of something that we can do, can we raise basically 50 trips? Can we raise 100 trips? Can we raise 60 trips, right? And if we look at it like that, how do we do it, right? So I think we put some ideas together, and as a state out there, if you really are concerned about the cost that these kids are doing, if you really want to help, nobody's going to turn away your money or your ideas. Bring them to Mason and their guys, and let's put them together. Maybe every year we do like a FAWA foundation dinner. We set up a mat in the middle. We have some wrestling. We do a silent auction. We do some stuff, and who knows, even if we raise 50 trips, that's 50 extra trips that we got, right? So yeah.
No.
With all you guys talking to you actually one-on-one, especially in the room while we were waiting to go to the airport, when everybody was in there, it seemed like everybody's on board. Everybody's passionate about making this grow. Nobody was in there saying, I'm just here for the trip. Like, everybody really wants to see.
We've had plenty of those people in the past, and again, like, kudos to the coaches. Like, I feel like that was one of the best things that we did was the staff, the staff that we picked, how cohesive, how willing to work. And like, you can't be around all these guys without learning something, whether you're a wrestler or a coach. Like, a lot of times you get into a coaching dialogue and stuff, being around long periods of time that you would never get. Right. So those interactions for me are always the things that I love about Fargo. You get to hear, pick a name, anybody that's there. All you got to do is walk up behind them and you can literally listen to them coach. You can listen to their 30-second spiel in the middle, when they take a break. It's just a crazy, unique experience. Like we said, it really is. On the other part, like, we're always, like I say but FAWA as an organization, like, it's divided into areas of the state. And there's a board, right, that's comprised of a board. And some of those names, Mako and Crum, are people that hold spots towards the top or towards the functioning of that board or the state, right? When it comes to ideas or actual work being put in, we don't ever have enough people, right? So some people go, some people come, but a lot of times you find that people don't know how to volunteer to help, right? Or they don't know what the process is for it. And it's pretty simple. If you have a Team Leaders USA card, the same thing that's required to coach, right, then you're eligible. You can be at the meetings, right? If you wanted to be more involved in that, you could try to get on the board, right, which is where you have an opportunity to vote. And when we decide on things for the tournaments or fundraising or anything like that, that's how it's done. It's presented, we present it to the board, or somebody talks about it, we talk about it through the board, we put it to a vote. If it's voted yes, then we act upon making it happen. If it's voted no, then we either talk it out and try to say, hey, what, is there value to what's going on? Is it the wrong time? What is it, type of thing, or we move on. So no fresh ideas to vote on or think about, or no people offering to want to host a tournament, which I think is, again, we're one of those things that's confused for coaches or for programs. They don't necessarily understand the process, and it's not a hard process. It's very similar. Just knowing the steps or getting information can allow you to get your program to be able to do bigger and better things too. We want every area of the state to be involved. That's how you get the best experience, and that's how you get kids. Like, I don't see any of the 1A kids during the year. Like, I tend to have a lot of interaction, obviously, and see the ones that we wrestle 2A and the bigger schools because of the tournaments we go to. but kids like coming from the Panhandle and certain parts of Jacksonville and stuff, we probably had, 20 or 30 kids on our team that, to be honest, I didn't know where their high school and where they were, right? And now I do. So now I know who they are. I see them. We have a whole different relationship, and now I got, something to look for in the area, and I'm learning about it, and they have another asset to use. So like that would never happen. I'm a pretty intense coach, when I'm actually coaching, and when I'm looking down at the floor and thinking, it's probably not the best, time to ask something of me. But when I'm not at wrestling, like a lot of people, like Fargo, for instance, when you get outside of that element, you learn that these coaches are regular people. Most of them are pretty good people. You would trust having your son around, and they're pretty cool to pick their mind and have a beer with every now and then.
Yeah, and it was, I was gonna say, it was cool because I know as far as my son's concerned, we're 1A and we would never see Jesuit. The only time sometimes I would run into you is the bigger tournament. Maybe it was the Lake Gibson, or maybe it was George Jenkins, or maybe it was the knockout I see you guys at, or is it maybe Danny Byron will come up to, but I don't typically, as far as our schedule for high school, I never see you. And then it was great last year. We went up to, I don't know, was it North Florida somewhere or something? And you guys showed up to the tournament. It was pretty cool. My son got, I think he wrestled one or two of your guys in in his bracket there. But I think you guys were there, and it was pretty cool to see Jesuit in the room, right?
Right.
Because we never really get a chance to see it. And it was cool. We saw, I tell people, man, everybody was upset with COVID, but us in Central Florida, I'm like, man, where's COVID at? Because during COVID, Central Florida was wide open, and all these great teams from all around the state were coming to Central Florida to wrestle in all these tournaments that were going on because the other districts wouldn't go. So we got to see you in South Dade and the Gibsons and the Somerset, and everybody was coming up from all over Florida. And I was like, man, this has been a great year for me. I got to see all these kids. Now, of course, everybody's kind of funneled back to their districts and their areas. But man, we were really spoiled that season, getting to see everybody. And because you guys, I'm sure you, just like everyone else, it didn't matter what the tournament was. We just want a place to wrestle. It didn't matter if it was up in Winter Garden, Winter Haven, North Florida. Everybody was just trying to find a spot, right?
Yeah, those crazy times, man. Those are crazy times. I think it was it kind of gave a dividing point, between the haves and the have-nots, and it got a little bit wider during that time frame. I personally, as a coach, think that the COVID era hurt our youth wrestling quite a bit. Like when I don't mean that to be offensive, but I think a lot of the youth programs were affected because a good portion of them work out of the high school. The high schools were affected, so in turn, we had a lot of clubs opening up here and there, and, kind of a territorial thing at times, it seemed like. But when you talk about the Central Florida area, like with the rumbles and stuff like that, like those things are always getting a larger volume of people from different areas. And so during the COVID time frame, we didn't really, I think I liked it, actually. I mean, I felt like it was more like college, it was obviously a challenge, but once we got past the point of deciding like, hey, we're not going to die from this, we don't think, right? And we also have other options for people if they feel like it's unsafe, getting a vaccination or whatever it may be. But from the time COVID happened, like those 2 years after it, we traveled. Good Lord, we traveled. Man, we went everywhere. It was the opposite of probably what you would think you would be happening, where most people were stuck. We had open doors, right? Our resources helped us to be able to travel more, and we had some very creative parents and coaches put their minds together and come up with a master plan. So we went to I want to say we went to 70 different places in 2 years, right? And we flew
We'd
30
look at lineups. We would look at
30
lineups at
times.
tournaments. Yeah, we'd look at tournament lineups like team entry, and we'd be like, wow, Jesuit's there. Wow, South Date's there this year. Wow, like teams were coming. And
Yeah, we made a lot of good connections that we still use, and kind of now that you think about it. So I don't know, people get stuck in their district or their comfort zone, and I feel like we always try to branch outside of our comfort zone a little bit and challenge our kids to have adversity and embrace the adversity, and they see us and how we think about it. So the typical Jesuit kid doesn't have a lot of adversity for the most part. It's a question of deep down inside, does he want to be a little bit different than the pact, right? And what is his desire to separate himself from average, right? Anybody can have that. And we try to put our kids in front of as much different things as possible. Like Jesuit high school as a whole is an experience. It's completely different than any set up public school system. Like making that selection, going there, that this is a completely different thing. It's all encompassing. There's so many different things that the school does or requires, or the trips that they go on with the school, the amount of activities that they're required to be involved in, and just how planned everything professionally is. It's something that we take on to the wrestling team, and we try to embrace it kind of in a similar manner. So Sal being the CEO and being somebody that I can always ask advice or look to, he's kind of been the leader of the branch of thought, right, of getting Jesuit started. What's the possibility here at Jesuit? What do we need to do coaching and resource wise to get the type of athlete that you want, and the type of student that's required to go to Jesuit. So there's no athletic scholarship or anything like that. I always hear these crazy things, but you have to test to get in, right? And there's a large number of students that do that. It's a process. Most people end up not being able to go to Jesuit because they don't meet the criteria, right? So they didn't get to the test on time, or they didn't know there was a test the year before to get into your freshman year. It's not common. Most people make their decisions for their high school like a couple months before, not 12 months before. So
yeah, it's great. And I was going to ask you, because I know I got about, we could keep going probably about another 10 minutes, but
what time is it?
1:50.
All right.
Yeah, because you got to run too.
We didn't talk about nothing. We've been talking for 50 minutes and we didn't talk about anything.
Yeah, just all in Florida, right?
We've just been BSing. Did you even ask me any questions?
No, this is what's great about this show.
This is good.
Fun and we do this, but I did, before we wrapped up and you kind of started transitioning into it, is I know you've coached other places coming into the coaching world in Florida. Obviously you and I have had personal conversations, but seems like you found a home there now. And I've talked to you that actually Basil coming into your life has been a big deal for you. And talk about what that family and that whole circle has meant to you, your career, your life now. And obviously for those who don't know, everybody's probably heard about the Basil family and being displaced from their house fire. There is a GoFundMe going around. You can actually text him, call him, do whatever you can to help him. If you can't give money, there's other things that they're in need for. Just reach out to Mason. He's got a whole list of things that'll help them. But just wanted to give that shout out to everybody. But yeah, man, talk about that family.
So the Basils and I kind of started when Sal and I went on a national duels trip for Team Florida. Right. So we kind of circumvents the same thing we were talking about earlier. But after the trip, and this again was one of the first interactions really where I got to know Sal got to know me, and he saw kind of how I worked with his son. And then from that, I ended up practicing with his son a little bit and trying to help Ethan prepare for his high school year. And it kind of something that I guess naturally progressed, right? But when I started it, it was a good coaching job, it was something that I knew I surrounded myself with good people, but I didn't really know who the Basils were, so after we got into coaching and, fast forward like 5 years now, I coached the oldest son, Ethan, right? I coached Braden, who's the middle son, and I'm coaching Mason now, who's the youngest son. And as unique as anything that I've, ever been a part of, Sal is their dad, but he's also the head coach, right? And I've never had the experience of having someone that has good wrestling knowledge like he does, like basically put all of his faith in you, right? Like he understands that their father-son relationship is affected if he does it to a certain like intensity level, or if he does it overkill type of thing. And he found, me in the process, and kind of being natural intermediate, I guess, to that. I play that role a lot. I feel like, the kids really, they take to me. I guess I'm still halfway cool in their eyes, so they listen, generally to what I'm saying overall. And with the Basil family, it's become, I get to coach with Sal, who I consider, my best friend at this point, that's I've gained as an adult, right? So we're around each other every freaking day. We travel the country together. If it was just a working relationship at this point, it probably would have soured to a certain extent. And just from the trust that he gave me with the boys, and allowing me to use my, coaching skills in a place where they were already successful. Sal can coach plenty good on his own, and now he's got and surrounded himself with people that are take the sport very seriously also, and that are good at coaching. So he gave me those reins with his boys, and obviously from that we've developed, a really close relationship. They're like my little brothers. I still got one to come through, right? But when we talk about Jesuit as a whole in the big picture, you got a lot of, again, selfless dudes that could probably run any program or pretty close to that by themselves if they wanted to. And you got them all together in a same place with a kind of same mindset, all moving the wheel forward, so it's been something that I've been incredibly blessed to be a part of. I've learned a ton from doing it. I've got the ability, to help mold children in the future and get credit for it, when, I, as a man, know that I get way more out of it than I could ever give these kids, and they hold me to a different standard. That's why I keep signing myself up for it. So the Basils were, the first kids that wanted to go to wrestling practice as much as I did, right? Like I could coach kids that were great at wrestling, but they didn't want to go wrestle me every day, right? These kids love wrestling, they love to pick my mind and play wrestle, and, their results show. Ethan's wrestling at UNI, he started his freshman year. Braden's in the academy at West Point. He's only been there for a month and he's already leading all these different things. They're just a special group of kids, a special family. And I feel like, Jesuit's that for sure. It's like I said, it's not a high school like you would picture a typical high school where, you're going to get through your 4 years, you get your diploma. Like this is an experience, right? Like it's something that at times can be a lot and overwhelming, and you see the benefit of it much later on, not during that time frame. A lot like wrestling, you just keep putting one foot in the other front of the other and doing the right thing, and then before you know it, you've accomplished something. So with our wrestling program in our school, man, I'm thinking about my son who's 6 years old, and I'm really trying to learn as much as possible about being a father-son relationship and doing all these things from all the people that are around me that have been through it. Like a lot of great coaches, I ask them the same type of questions about their kids and how they went through it, because it's a crazy dynamic, like you said about your son at Fargo, who, I didn't really know Daniel before, but as the Fargo process and stuff went, I became a fan of him. Like I thought he did really well. I thought he even could have won another match or two, which I think he knew too, after he lost that one and being in there, like I think he gained a lot of confidence from it. So that was the little special things to me for reward of putting in a lot of time and effort and a lot of annoyance, right? You see some little things like that, and I'm like, it means nothing to the grand scheme of things, but it makes me feel good.
Yeah, he even found a mat in another hotel and some people, and he was trying to get practices in when he was already out of the tournament. He was like, he just wanted to get better. Yeah, he kind of went in for a single and his head got stuck, and when his head got stuck, the kid caught him. And as we learned in freestyle, you don't have time to fight the hands to get out of a cradle. As soon as you go over, you're done, right? You're tapped. So
Yeah, you get pinned quick too.
yeah. Cool, man. Yeah, I know they're close to you now. I mean, you had, before we wrap up, Murderers Row you had there the last 2 years. I mean, it was absolutely insane. The weight classes and the beast you had there, they've all moved on to college now. I think a lot of people think, all right, well, are they still going to be as good losing all that strength? But I mean, I witnessed some of your young people at Fargo. I've seen some of your young guys out there wrestling. You've got a lot of good young blood coming up, huh? We'll keep it a secret.
We're working, man. We're working.
Secret, yeah.
I mean, obviously, when you have what we had last year and you don't know all the names, we're gonna have to come up with points in different ways. We're not gonna replace 15 state titles or whatever crazy amount they won. That's nobody's gonna argue that. But we believe in what we do. We have a plan. We wrestle 49 weeks, 49 and a half weeks of the year, it's not kind of rocket science, I don't think. Like, I think the whole part of it is, during that time frame of showing up to practice and putting together practice, can you give great thought to it every day? Can it have some impact and meaning? And like these Fargo, for instance, can you do things that make the kids more interested in what you're trying to sell? Right. So I have a level of knowledge, I believe, at this point that I don't get to share very often, right? Like, I don't get to spend enough time around certain athletes to feel like I've even given them everything that I could give them, right? But it's dependent on the relationship and the athlete wanting it as much as you do, right? Or wanting to be better than even they believe they can be. So, yeah.
I mean, I know the young kid that I watched go through Fargo with you. I think he's going into 10th grade this year. He's been fun to watch. And I remember watching him during COVID down at D1, little D1 club down there. And he was still in middle school and he was competing with the high school kids. And it was fun to watch him All-American on the Greco side. It's cool. He kind of reminds me of like a little Cooper Haas.
Yeah, you told me that you talking about Draven McCall, right?
Yeah, he kind of moves that way. He's long like that, he's got that kind of feel to him. And listen, hey,
let me
not
tell
a
you,
bad guy to be like, right? Cooper Haas.
No,
career.
absolutely not. Cooper's a great kid, shout out to him too. Like, he's one of the ones that we love having on the trip. I would always support having Cooper with us. He's a good little kid. He wrestles hard. You never have to worry about him showing up to compete. He's fun. That's the type of thing that makes the trip fun. But Draven McCall, he's there's nobody like Draven. Draven's his own little beast, and he's just starting to figure it out, right? Like, he has so much untapped wrestling potential and potential inside of him that he's just starting to dig into. So yeah, we're excited about
he's got a bright future,
the overall direction.
Yeah, I enjoy watching him.
Anything that he chooses to do, if he does it with the amount of zeal that he's doing his pursuit of wrestling right now, he's going to be in really good shape. And hey, if I had to bet on anything, I'm betting on Draven. So we'll see.
Fun kid to watch, man. He's really, really fun. I enjoyed being Matt's side for a lot of his matches during Fargo. It was cool, and you could kind of see the passion and the relationship you're building there, and it was kind of cool. But yeah, man, this has been awesome. I'm glad we finally got a chance to do this. I know we briefly did it at the camp, and obviously prior to this, we only met in passing, or when I came to shoot you guys, or with all the pictures I took, or seeing you at the tournaments. And getting to become friends and getting to become close and getting to know you over these last couple of months has been, man, it's been awesome, man.
It has been.
You kind of allowing me into your circle, and it's really been fun. Hopefully I can be invited down to any of your tournaments or stuff this year. We can get some photos done for you guys.
Absolutely, my man. Like, you earned everything that you did, you know, like I didn't give you anything. Like, as you well worked your way through everything, you put in a lot of work, and you're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, man, I
know.
can't wait. I'm excited. I think my wife said to me, well, what if Daniel, Daniel may never go again, right? Because next year he might decide to graduate and go off to college and do the summer up there. I go, I'm going again, man. I want to go. Forget it. I mean, I love Daniel and all, but man, the wrestling that I got to watch and then being around the kids and it was just awesome.
It's an experience, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
like, I'm telling you, it's a great thing.
It'll
Yeah, I
cool.
appreciate you, bro. If anybody, has any ideas or whatnot, and you just have no idea how to get them out there, just, I don't know, DM me, Facebook, shoot me a message, Instagram or whatever. And I mean, I'll start the conversation from there. And if there's something that I can do about it going to the board and stuff, I'll play advocate for anything that's a good idea.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's get on it and help, instead of bitching and complaining about it, find ways that we can make it work.
Yep. It's $2 a picture. $2 a picture.
$2 a picture.
The best value in the business.
All right.
Hey, man, I appreciate you, bro. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right, brother. See you.